The women of Wizo and the organization of Wizo has gone down in history not only because they elevated women standing in the society, but also because of their many deeds and enterprises for society. Mrs. Raya Jaglom will speak about Rebecca Sieff. Let me just say that we at Beit Hatfutsot are well aware that many attempts to recount Jewish history tell only his story. Through our exhibition, we are proud to introduce a section telling her story.
Israel is going through trying times at present. We are threatened almost daily by the dictator in Baghdad with war. We have to deal with infiltrators coming across our borders with murderous intent. But we have seen far more difficult times, and there's no question at all that we will overcome these difficulties. It is just at a time like this that a personality like Rebecca Sieff stands out for her indomitable courage, for her character and abilities that can serve as an example to each and every one of us these very days. I want to thank the organizers of this exhibition for having done a very worthwhile, a very important job at this time. Thank you.
One of the most popular and fashionable trends in our generation is the notion of women's liberation. In the parentage of Zionism, in the generation that laid the foundations for this one-time historical event, the concept of liberated women was in its swaddling clothes. But that generation conceived something still more beautiful and important. Not liberated women, but liberating women. These were women who didn't wait for someone to liberate them and didn't even fight for liberation, but simply took into their hands both their freedom and the responsibility and placed themselves at the head of the struggle for the liberation of the entire nation. They were but a few, and each one did it in her own individual way. Miriam Baratz and Dvorah Dayan realized it by working in the field and in the cowshed. Manya Shocha did it with weapons. Golda Meir made it happen at the Histadrut and in the Jewish agency's offices. Rebecca Sieff, however, did it in her own way, a unique and special way. I don't have to tell here the story of Wizo. The exhibition does that, and the rest is detailed in books and demonstrated on the map of Israel. Wizo is the world's biggest organization today of Jewish women, consisting of hundreds of thousands of women in 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children and youngsters are educated each year at Wizo institutions in Israel, from daycare center through kindergarten until college. Hundreds of women receive vocational training. Thousands of elderly people get a warm home. Wizo is also a pioneer in struggling for equal political and social rights of the Israeli woman. I wish to express my gratitude and highest regard for the large number of Wizo institutions in Tel Aviv-Yafo.
A few days ago only, we had the anniversary of Kristallnacht, 9th of November. One of the many terrible things that happened were that all the young people who had been in Germany in training were taken to concentration camps. Now, this was, at the time, concentration camps weren't exactly the same that they were later, but they were pretty grim even then. And even then you read in the newspapers that so and here and there, somebody was shot while trying to escape, all kinds of stories. Of course, the British didn't give us a possibility to bring them to this country. The idea was to bring them to England, that they would sit it out and wait until they finally would get certificates. But in England, there was unemployment. how could you bring young people to England when there's so much unemployment? Well, it was an incongruous situation. There was unemployment in the cities and underemployment on the farms. Becky had some great friends. One of them, particularly amongst journalists, there was a man called Owen, who was the chief editor of the Evening Standard at the time. There was Michael Foot, who is still with us, who for a time was the head of the Labour Party. She brought all these people together and explained the situation for them, and they went to government to try to find a solution. The urging of Becky did this, otherwise it would never have been done. The result was that we got 3,000, in the little script that I got it said only 1,000, but it was 3,000. 3,000 immigration cards, which we could use to the extent we found places on farms. And we found the places on farms because they were actually needed. And we saved these 3,000 people because many of those who were with them in the concentration camps at the same time never made it. I was reminded of many other things, and I could go on telling stories of this kind, but this is only a greeting. So I want to use it only in order to say a word of thanks to Raya and to Wizo and for what they have done in Jerusalem over the last 20 years. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, Minister Arens, Mayor Kollek, and Mayor Lahat, Madame Shamir, Your Excellency, Raya, Michal, dear friends. Marcus is very sorry that on doctor's orders he cannot be with us today. He asked me to convey to you his regrets as well as his good wishes. He would have loved to thank you all personally for this outstanding exhibition of the life and work of his mother, Becky, to whom he says he owes a great deal, including his birth in between her numerous Wizo meetings. For my part, and on behalf of the family, I am grateful to have this opportunity to thank many of you here without whom this exhibition could not have taken place. I would like to thank my sister-in-law, Judy Schechterman, who first conceived the idea of this tribute to her mother. But above all, the one person who is responsible for putting this idea into practice, who initiated, negotiated, persevered in spite of many difficulties, cajoled, bullied, and inspired us all, was Raya Jaglom. President of World Wizo, disciple and friend of Becky, who took over the chairmanship of Wizo from Becky 25 years ago and led it from strength to the present day. Raya, may I, on behalf of Marcus and all the members of the family, thank you with all my heart. I was lucky to have known Becky and to have enjoyed her friendship and affection. Those of you who knew her well know how proud she was of everything Israeli. And since I was Israeli, I could do no wrong in her eyes. She would also have been proud today to have here with us so many members of her family. This exhibition shows the breadth of Rebecca's interest and the depth of her vision, but surely the jewel in the crown of her achievement was the formation of the Federation of Women Zionists, where the fruit of her labor can be seen in the hundreds of Wizo institutions which care for women and children and the new Olim which dot the map of Israel. In addition, she inspired thousands and thousands of women all over the world who through their membership of Wizo follow in her footsteps. I hope that this meaningful exhibition will continue to inspire the young generation as well as tell the tale of a lady whose dream of 70 years ago became a reality.
Rebecca Sieff was a remarkable woman, a unique breed which one has the privilege to encounter perhaps once in 100 years. And here we are in fact celebrating her centenary. Among Rebecca Sieff's qualities were vision, determination, dedication, and dignity, which were manifest in everything she did throughout her exciting, exacting, and creative life. But above all, the quality she radiated most especially was her capacity for friendship. Becky was literally a friend for life. She was indeed a friend through thick and thin, and she never permitted anything to mar her feelings towards someone she considered a friend. In 1980, Rebecca accompanied her husband and Dr. Weizmann and other Zionist leaders and their wives on a royal commission to Palestine. They were appalled at the desperate poverty of the handful of Jews in the Yishuv, and they returned to England, and on their return to England, Rebecca and her colleagues decided to do something about it. With a small band of women Zionists in Manchester, they formed the Federation of Women Zionists, despite opposition from the men's British Zionist establishment, with the primary purpose of improving the standard of living of Jewish women and children in Palestine. 2 years later, in 1920, at a conference in London attended by Jewish women from all over Europe, as well as Canada, South Africa, Moscow, and China, Wizo, the Women's International Zionist Organization, was created. Wizo's name and the inclusion of the word Zionism was due to Becky's insistence, especially as the German delegation at that conference favored calling the newborn entity the Frauenverein für jüdische Kultur, the Women's Organization for Jewish Culture. But Becky won the battle, and it was named Wizo. The first step taken by the infant Wizo was to establish agricultural and vocational schools to train young immigrant girls from the shtetls of Europe to redeem the land of Israel. From those humble origins, and after 70 years of arduous, dedicated, and tireless efforts, Wizo has created a network of 680 projects and services spread across the length and breadth of Israel. Rebecca Sieff played a significant role in the rescue of Jewish youth in the years before, during, and after World War II. In her book, Let the Children Come, Raya, the founder of Youth Aliyah, paid tribute to Becky, and I quote, "The influence of the inspired and inspiring personality of Rebecca Sieff with a deep and sure instinct for the good of her people, in which she was firmly rooted, and her personal readiness for sacrifice helped to create Youth Aliyah." In 1938, Rebecca Sieff's personal efforts and relentless determination helped to save, as Teddy says, 3,000 young. We were going to correct our history. Young Jews from Germany by having them brought to England, as well as hundreds of families from Czechoslovakia who went to Palestine. In 1945, immediately after the war ended, Becky was among the first to visit the displaced persons in which languished the pitiful remnants of European Jewry. Ignoring the prohibitions against civilian entry, Becky donned the uniform of a British colonel and spent Rosh Hashanah 1945 with Jewish survivors in Bergen-Belsen. In 1946, Becky led a delegation of 200 women to to the British House of Commons in protest against the government's mandate policies in Palestine. In 1947, Becky appeared before the UN Special Committee on Palestine, UNSCOP, which we all remember, and made an impassioned plea for the doors of Palestine to be open to Jewish youth still held in the DP camps, a plea whose stirring words will forever resound in our ears. We shall not rest, nor gentlemen, shall we give you rest until we have brought our children home, she said. In 1960, Becky was awarded the OBE by Her Majesty the Queen of England in recognition of her services to the United Kingdom. Rebecca was the first donor for the present Wizo headquarters in Tel Aviv. She realized that we could not continue to operate efficiently in the downtown premises on Simtat Beit HaShoeva, which had become far too small for us and hampered Wizo's growth and development. Becky would have been so pleased to know that today Wizo is responsible for the education of 45,000 children, that through a network of Wizo's women's centers, the concept of which was a brainchild of Becky's, tens of thousands of women, Jewish, Arab, Druze, Circassian, acquire a heightened awareness of themselves and their potential. And that in order to run and maintain its operations, Wizo employs 4,300 men and women, educators, social workers, nurses, administrators, artisans, and so on. Becky and her husband founded the Daniel Sieff Research Institute in Rehovot, the forerunner of the Weizmann Institute, which is today the scientific center of Israel and enjoys tremendous international esteem. David Ben-Gurion, Israel's first prime minister, once wrote to Becky, and I quote, "You personify the best type of Jewish womanhood which bears the full burden and shares equal rights and responsibilities in the effort to redeem our country." I know that Becky would have been proud of the significant role Wizo is playing today in the social absorption of the thousands of Soviet Jews arriving in Israel. I also know that she would have been delighted that Wizo is once again active in Budapest and Prague after an intermission of 50 years. The last Wizo conference in Budapest was held in 1935 under Becky's presidency. This year, 35 years later, at the end of this month, we shall again be holding a European Wizo conference in Budapest. I am proud to be able to say that Wizo has remained loyal and faithful to Becky's dreams and ideals, accomplishing and extending what she set out to do, to enhance the quality of life of the people of Israel. I could go on speaking about her for hours. I admired her, and above all, I loved her. We shall always cherish her. Thank you. כמו מסלול של החיים שלי. וכאן ושם זה מוסדות. זו הישיבה הראשונה עם רבקה זיו. כאן יושבת גברת סמואל, זו רבקה זיו, זו מרים מרקס, זו מרים סקר. כל אחת מאיתנו הם ממייסדות ויצו. תסתכלו כאן על התמונה הזו, זו התמונה של החתונה של רבקה זיו עם ישראל זיו, אבל זה ממש משפחה כולה של מרקס. פתאום אני רואה את בקי, Yes.